This is Srikar.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, welcome. So this is the um, session Install and Configure Windows PowerShell Desired State Configuration. I'm Andrew Barnes presenting. First thing I'm going to do is just a quick introduction, which is what I'm doing now. Then we'll go through. I've got a little agenda here. I've got a few notes which I'm going to work through. I don't have any slides, probably because I'm a little bit lazy. I just didn't get a chance to actually finish it off. Had a lot on this week. Anyway, so basically, we're going to be going through what is DSC, how does DSC work, in terms of the way it works, we're going through the authoring phase, the staging phase, and then discussing the apply phase, which is what Microsoft call the make it so phase. After which, we'll have a demo. I'll connect to my lab and I'll give you a demonstration of DSC, how to author and configure a resource, and then after that we'll have a discussion and any questions from there. And if there's any time left over, we'll go into an advanced demo and we'll have a question and answer session at the end, okay?
Okay.
Right, okay, so essentially, let's just bring up this. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Brilliant. Okay, so basically what we've got here is just an overview of sort of like the roadmap, the actual topology of DSC. Basically, so what is DSC basically? In short, it's a PowerShell extension, and it ships with Windows Server 2012 R2 and Windows 8.1. And what you can do with PowerShell DSC is you can use it to install and remove server roles. You can use it to manage registry settings, manage files and directories, and you can use it to essentially fix a configuration that has drifted away from a desired state. Essentially, anything that you can do in PowerShell, you can pretty much do in PowerShell DSC. Let's go through how does it work. There are two modes to PowerShell DSC. There's a pull mode in which you'll have a server which contains DSC resources and modules. Your machines, your servers or clients are linked to that pull server, and when you run DSC, it will check into that server and collect a configuration and apply that configuration to its local configuration store. The other model, configuration model, is called push model. Essentially, in the push model, it's just basically you run your configuration locally. Any DSC resources need to exist on your local machine. I mean, let's have a look at the actual map there. So the push model, basically, we'll be working mainly with the pull model today. Okay, I mean, essentially, I haven't got a push server set up, and at the moment, that's probably the best thing for us. The easiest way and the simplest way to actually explain it is to actually show you the pull model. So let me drop this in here, because these slides just keep changing themselves over, so that'll stop me from doing that. Right, okay. You've got a number of phases when it comes to using and managing DSC. You've got the authoring phase, you've got the staging phase, and you've got the make it so phase, the apply phase. Now in the authoring phase, what you do is you create a DSC configuration using what's called declarative syntax, and it's not too far dissimilar from a PowerShell script. So it's like writing a script, but it's not as complex as writing a script. You just essentially design your configuration in an agreed format, a predetermined format. From then on, what you're doing with that configuration is you're generating a MOF file, and your MOF file is what you transfer to your server or workstation for applying the configuration. You know, I said the push model. Yeah, I'm actually showing the pull model on here. So apologies for that. From then on, basically, once you've copied your configuration, your MOF files to your workstation, you simply apply it, basically. You actually simply just run a PowerShell command to run the configuration. So let's quickly go through here again. Now in the authoring phase, PowerShell DSC comes with 12 out-of-the-box DSC providers. I'll quickly show you that. I mean, this is a Windows 8.1 machine, so pretty much command PowerShell console, type in get DSC resource. What it's doing is exploring my workstation, and it's looking for DSC resources in a number of places, and then it's going to return them to me. So there we go. These are the out-of-box DSC resources. With it, you can configure files, ensure files on workstations. You can actually ensure Windows features are installed or removed. You can ensure registry keys exist or don't exist. You can manage local groups. You can manage environment variables. It's pretty powerful when you can do that. In addition to the resources that are built in here, there are actually more resources available, which you can and more being created all the time. You can actually download them by and apply them to your machine by downloading the DSC resource kit, and I'll give you a demonstration of that later.
Okay.
Okay, bear with me. Right, let's jump into the demo. Yeah, let's jump straight into the demo. What I'll do is I'll connect to my my server. Let me know that you can see my screen.
Yes, we do.
Excellent, brilliant. Okay, so I'm on my server now, and what we'll do is we'll go through creating a DSC resource, and we can use it to install Active Directory domain services, role, and tools. What I've got on my server is I've got Hyper-V, so converting to a checkpoint, and I'm going to start this video. This is a clean virtual machine. It's essentially a brand new outside the box virtual machine. I've called it Demo 1. Is everybody with me so far? What was this all about? It's a big, still big question marks over your heads. Okay, well, it'll probably all make sense as soon as I get into the demo. I should have actually started this virtual machine a bit sooner. Sorry about this.
David has got some questions, I guess.
I think, well, okay, we've got a Q&A section in a bit after this. Let me go through the demo, and hopefully I may have answered most of your questions by the time we get through this. We're going to be quite thorough. We're going to actually create a DSC resource, and we're going to apply it, and I'll show you basically just exactly how it goes from A to Z. So what we're doing is we're using what's called a push model here. So the MOF files are staged on a local machine that is executing the configuration. And again, one catch is you need to make sure your custom provider exists on your target system. Okay, so there's so much partial. There we go. I'm going to launch a partialized today. Now, here's one which I've created earlier. It's a resource. What I'll do is I'm going to make this a bit larger for you. Hopefully you can see a bit better. Is that better for you?
Yes.
Brilliant, excellent. Right, okay, cool. Now, essentially with this resource, it's, ignore this bit at the bottom for now. It's essentially takes the same structure as a partial function, because normally you'd have function, you'd have the name of the function, and then you'd have this script block next to it. It's pretty much the same kind of like structure. So you create a DSC configuration, and underneath there, you've got your parameter section, then you've got your node section. Now your node basically is the name of the host that your DSC configuration is going to be running on. My host name for this is called Demo1. So we're going to be using this Demo1. And essentially what I've done here is I've created a couple resources. And I'll show you basically how we'd use the resources. So here we've got get DSC resource, just like we did before. So this is a DSC resource Windows feature, one of the built-in resources. And let's have a look at its syntax. Essentially, this tells you how to create and author the resource. And what you could do is, now you've got its syntax, is you simply copy it and you'd paste it directly into your code, just like that. Which is exactly what I've done to create this earlier. Okay. Now, essentially, the name of your resource is, you give it a name. Here, I've called it installed AD. You could call it pretty much anything. I'm going to duplicate this resource we've got here. Now, when it says name here, these are the options in this resource here. This one in black here is mandatory. Name AD domain services. Because it's a Windows feature resource, what you'd have to do is you'd have to know the name of the Windows feature you're trying to install or remove, and you do that by going to a PowerShell command and using get Windows feature. And in this case, I'm not going to get all of them. I'll just get the ones beginning with AD. Let me know if this text gets too small in this console for you, and I can make it a bit larger. How's that looking? Is that better?
That's looking too big.
Is it looking a bit too big? You know what I'm going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got a small window and a small screen and another small screen. So what I'm going to try and do is, which didn't occur to me until just now, is make that a little bit bigger. How's that looking now? Is that better?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, now it looks good.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. Right, so essentially here you've got your name of your Windows features, and Active Directory Domain Services is AD Domain Services. So here we're going to install AD Domain Services. And it's just as simple as that. You pop it in quotes there, AD Domain Services. And if in some scenarios you require that you put your credentials in, you create a PowerShell object that contains the credentials and you'd attach it here. You can actually chain your configuration together by using the depends on option. I'll show you that in the next configuration, one from management tools. Here you can actually ensure that your configuration is absent or present, and you just basically pop it in quotes like this. It's as simple as that. Include all sub-features is an option. So here, if you wanted to use that particular option there, as you can see, it's asking for a Boolean response. So that would either be true or false. Simple as that. Log path, I've not actually used that, so I'm not going to gloss over that. And source, I'm not too sure about this either, to tell the truth. I'll check the documentation on that and I'll get back to you on that. I'll give you a resource to the documentation. Again, there's plenty of information on how to use these resources and plenty of examples of them. So basically that's our resource. Yeah, we've got Windows features, the first thing it's going to install, and the management tools. Windows feature again, the management tools which are going to run afterwards. They would both run simultaneously. Normally, both of these Windows features would, anytime you try to do any DSC resource, they'll run at the same time. But what we want to happen here, we want this feature to install, and when it's finished, install this feature. So what we do is we use the depends on, and what we tell it is it depends on Windows feature ADDS install. So until that feature is finished, do nothing basically. That's essentially what I'm telling you. Right. Here at the bottom next, this is just simply a PowerShell script. We're saving it called MCSE demo.ps1, and in there we have our configuration, which is like a function. From then on, we could just run that in the console, but I'm going to run it in the script. From then on, we simply call MCSE demo. Show that here. So you call it by its name, the same way you would do a function. And I'll quickly show you actually. Let's commit that to memory. And then essentially, there it is in memory. There now, MCSE demo. You have the output path where you wanted to create the mod files. if you had any configuration data, you can actually store configuration data in a variable. And that would be where you would store things like credentials to apply to this configuration. I don't have any, so I'm not actually going to use it, but I'm just showing you just how it goes. The instance name, I've actually forgotten what that one is. Good job we're not being paid for this. Okay, so there we go. This is basically, we're going to launch this. It's going to load this configuration to memory. It's going to tell us a warning, it's creating MOF files, and it's going to create a MOF file in the folder C scripts MCSA demo configuration. So I've got a lot of other junk in this demo folder here, which I'm actually going to get rid of, just to keep this a little bit neater. So here we go. Run MCSA demo, and there you go. It's creating our MOF file. Now, as you can see, it's created our configuration MOF for a server called SRV1. That's because I didn't actually save this. I thought I was going to get away with it. So it's created a folder called MCSA demo configuration under that folder, and underneath that folder, within there, it's got the actual MOF file, which is the configuration that we're going to apply, which is going to install our features. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to run this again to create another MOF file. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, this time it's created it the correct name, host name, ComDemo one, which is the same thing as using okay, environment computer name. Let's take a look at this MOF file it's created. We don't have any applications associated with it, so we're just going to open up Notepad. Yay! Now, I'm not an expert in reading and understanding MOFs, so a lot of this you can just pretty much make out what it is yourself. There are plenty of resources on understanding configuring MOF files. You could actually create this MOF file yourself in Notepad if you understood it properly. Again, I don't understand how to create a MOF file. It's a bit, it's just something I've not had the time to get around to doing, unfortunately. So the way we create this MOF file, for those people who don't understand MOF, is to use this declarative syntax. Okay, so this is essentially why we're doing this, why we're doing A to do B to do C. You could possibly send this MOF file over to customers. You could possibly you could do all sorts of it and get them to apply it. You could create it in one area of your business, give it to engineers and say, right, when you get down to this site, apply this configuration on the servers, and essentially you don't need to leave your desk. Right, I'll show you how we're going to apply that now. Essentially, in fact, let me show you the DSC command. Let's get is everybody still there?
Sorry?
Is everybody still there? It's gone a bit quiet now, yeah?
Niels is there, David is there.
Awesome. Right, there we go. So here are our commands. I've added some extra functions on here, so I'd ignore the functions because in these things that begin with X, because these are just new ones which I've actually downloaded and added on using the resource kit. Basically, we've got start DSC configuration. We've got set the DSC local configuration manager, and we should be able to get the local configuration manager, and we should be able to also get the DSC configuration. These are all the built-in DSC commands. If I were to do get command module, there you go. Those are the ones that come built with it. Okay, configuration, which is a function that we're using. There you go. Right, let's start this configuration. Start DSC configuration. Need a path. MCSE demo configuration. And what you do is you point the path to the folder that contains the resource. You don't actually point it to the MOV file, because that folder that contains the resource can contain resources for a number of different servers. In this case, we've just got one server. Now, I'm going to apply it to the local computer. You could actually apply this remotely by entering the computer name here. In this case, we're just going to use the environment variable of the local computer, which is a computer name. Now, I want interactive display, so we use this switch wait. I'm also going to use verbose, which will basically show me any errors or any extraneous information that comes up. And there we go. This is DSC in action. Now, within the LCM, the local configuration module itself, that is the actual service that is running this configuration on the computer demo one. It's starting installation. It basically gets the configuration and then it sets the configuration. As you can see, it's got the configuration, it's found basically it's non-compliant, and then it's setting it. Succeeded, Active Directory Domain Services. Succeeded, RSAT, ADDS. What I should have done prior to this, I should have actually got the Windows feature. In fact, we did actually before, didn't we? We actually got ADDS before, and it wasn't installed. And as you can see now, Active Directory Domain Services is actually installed.
Yes.
We look at the RSAT tools now. Too many. Yep, RSAT ADDS tools is now installed. Now this obviously hasn't configured Active Directory Domain Services. It's just installed a feature for us, available for us to actually configure it. As you can see, there it is. There's a feature installed. It's ready now for us to configure it. And that concludes the basic demo of DSC. Any questions?
Nothing so far for me.
Nothing so far. David, what do you think about?
Can you hear me? Sorry. Thanks very much for that. That was really good. The thing I was thinking, like, in what kind of a situation do you reckon that in a production environment one wants to use this rather than just using PowerShell scripts? Because basically, like, PowerShell scripts can still accomplish a similar thing.
Oh, indeed, yeah. Well, you are currently using PowerShell. Let me drill down. Let me show you that actually. You know what? In order to explain that, I'm going to jump into the advanced demo, yeah? Because what I'll do is I'll show you how I build my test labs. I currently build my test labs using DSC, and here's the scenario for you. going to quickly jump onto my NAS server here. Ebooks. Oh, I've got so much junk here. Bear with me a moment. Are you familiar with the test lab? The test lab guide, Microsoft test lab guides, David.
No, not that much. No.
Let me show you here now. What I tend to do is whenever I'm building my labs, I tend to use the test lab guides as a framework, basically, if you like, for actually as a design, basically, you know, for building them. But just give me one moment. There we go.
So as I understand, like this DSC is mainly into like the coding part of the PowerShell.
The issue is mainly what the coding, did you say?
And in the sense, like this might be more useful for automatic deployments, like in the cloud.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. This is exactly where they're using it now. Now, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Right. Now, what we've got here is Microsoft Test Lab guides, yeah, and you've got oh goodness, you've got basically what's called Windows Server 2012 R2 base configuration. And what Microsoft have done basically is they've put together this guide, and it shows you basically how to set up a small proof of concept. So here, you set up a little lab. You set up a domain controller, an application server, and you connect it to a network called CorpNet. You create 2 more servers on another router called Internet. And this basically, you've got INET1, which would simulate the Internet because this would be running DHCP. And then you've got an edge server here, which could run something like Forefront, which can bridge both the networks together. And here you'd have your clients, which you can switch between the CorpNet, and then you could connect it to the Internet to simulate a user, you know, in a cafe or working from home. And basically, you could use it for configuring advanced scenarios like direct access, you name it, basically. I basically am using the CorpNet. I've configured DC1 and App1, and on DC1, let me show you the configuration of DC1. There you go, configure DC1. Now DC1 is a domain controller which has Active Directory domain services, it has DNS, it has DHCP. From there, you know, you've got all the instructions here to install the operating system, configure TCP/IP, install AD, configure DHCP, and then you've got, you know, configuration there to set a static IP address for it and the like. And you go through blow by blow and you configure this. And once you've done this, I mean, I used this as a foundation when I was configuring Config Manager, but now within my lab, I don't want to be going through this guide and clicking all the time. Let me show you my lab on my server. I mean, we finished on this demo 1. We finished on this server demo 1 now. So we're back on my VMware host now. And can everyone see my VMware host?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Now here I've got a number of virtual machines there. If I make this a little bit bigger for you so you can see what's going on.
Yeah, okay. Looks great now.
Okay, so I've got 4 VMs on here. And here's something you don't see very often. You don't see anyone type that very often. You don't see that too often, do you, David? Somebody deleting all of their virtual machines of their server.
Now I want to understand, how does it take -app1 immediately? Is it like it takes up the first one automatically?
It will basically delete every single virtual machine in series. So as you can see, all my virtual machines are gone now.
Okay. One single command and boom.
Bam, everything's gone. The only thing left here now is the virtual hard drives, all 8 GB.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, apologies for that. I don't know what happened there. How much did you see of that demo then?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so you saw when I wiped my virtual machine, yeah?
We only saw till you've removed the virtual hard disk. After that it froze.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, no problem. Let me share my entire screen then again one more time.
Sure.
Present to everybody. Let me know that you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, cool. Right. Okay, so can you see this here?
New test lab VM.
Yeah, I can see your screen now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I've just run a script. It says new test app VM. It's just a script I've created, and I'm calling it DC1, and I'm updating the DSC resources within that script.
So,
it took about.
Andrew, I just have a question. Sorry for interrupting.
Sure. No, it's okay.
So, yeah. So you have executed the command, right? That would delete the VM. So,
Yep.
like, what is the security for this? Like, in case we by mistake execute the command.
This is just my test lab. Yeah.
I understand test lab, but in real production,
yeah,
we happen to.
How would you prevent someone from doing that? I have no idea.
That's right.
Honestly, yeah. Just don't do that, and don't employ idiots. If somebody does that, sack them. Yeah. Security,
go ahead.
and also back up your servers, back up your VMs, just in case somebody does that. Okay.
Okay, please go ahead.
There you go. And also remove the admin rights to prevent them from doing that. There you go. Essentially, I mean, what we're trying to get out of this is a practical use for using DSC. Now, there's a job role which I'm sure you've probably heard of being brandished around. It's called DevOps. I don't know if you've.
Yes, right.
I'm pretty sure you've all heard of it. And
yes,
people are thinking, everyone's like, what is DevOps? What is it? And, how do I get to do it? And why are they being paid so much? Why are they paying these guys like £600 a day or whatever? Essentially, you've got farms and farms of servers. You want to build them fast. You want to build them quickly. You want to manage them. You want to make sure they don't drift away from their configuration. One role I had in the past was managing internet-facing web servers for a large banking organization.
Right.
And they had, hundreds of web servers. Hundreds. They're ordered by the government to, take away part of their business and sell it off. So we had to separate a lot of these servers and rebuild them. So, if we had PowerShell DSC back there, it could have saved me so much time. It could have saved them, literally millions in configuring these servers. Right. Okay. Let's go back here now. So I'm building another VM here, and this one's called App1. It's doing that crazy thing where unless you press enter in the console, it suddenly freezes. As you can see, the first machine took 1 minute 43 seconds. The second one took 4 minutes. So there you go. That's my second.
I have a dumb question. So when you executed the command, it only creates a new VM, but does not install the OS and all, right?
No, what I'm doing for my lab is I'll show you. D drive.
Mm-hmm.
D drive, Hyper-V, sorry, view, details. Here I have virtual hard drive templates. So there's my Windows Server 2012 R2 standard template, yeah? So I'm copying that VHD file to here. And then I'm calling it, renaming it DC1.
Okay.
From then on, I'm mounting it.
Okay.
So here you see I've mounted it. Within there, I'm creating a folder called scripts. I'm copying some DSC scripts in there.
Okay.
Within there, I'm also copying some DSC resources into program files. I'll show you that now in a second. I'm also I'm applying an unattend.xml file. Now this unattend.xml file, if you create a file called unattend.xml file and it's properly configured, and you stick it in this folder, let me show you this here. As you can see, all I need to do is power up this machine. It's never been powered up before. Straight off to CD. It will name the computer name. It will do the registered owner. It will set the time zone, set my regional settings. It will configure the out-of-box experience. It will set the administrator name, the administrator password. It will set it to auto login 5 times. And again, we're going slightly off topic here. This is what to exact. I'm also running a synchronous command here. And what this is doing is it's setting a scheduled task. This scheduled task basically is running this PowerShell script, C scripts test lab based configuration. Now I'll go in here and I'll show you exactly what that script is doing. So this is my DSC resource, which builds the test lab based configuration. So literally, we're building DC1 and we're building App1 just by using PowerShell DSC. And all I need to do is turn the machines on and it will all run automated. Now here, this resource is just like the resource which I created earlier, only here it's far more advanced. I'm doing a hell of a lot more with it. And I'll show you basically. Here we've got our configuration, just like we did before. We're starting the DS, we're basically creating the configuration data, we're creating a mock file here, and then here we're actually starting the configuration within the last line here. I'm going to go through this. Any questions before I go through this configuration?
Nothing from my side.
Okay. Now here, at the top here, I've created this section where I've created some variables. Now, in the test lab based configuration, they call it Contoso. I'm calling mine Continuum. I'm using a password. The password's 01. I don't normally do that, but I'm doing it in this case. And I'm going to show you exactly what this configuration wants me to do. DC1, install the operating system, configure TCP/IP. So we need a static IP address for it. Install Active Directory and DNS. Install DHCP. Hey. Create a user account in Active Directory. There's IP address 127.0.0.1. Install ADDS. Have Active Directory integrated DNS. Have the DHCP role within the DHCP itself. Create a new scope for it, and then create a user account, a test user account called user1. In my case, I'm not calling it user1, I'm calling it user account descriptors. So let's look at the configuration. with the configuration here, I've created parameters just as normal, and I've created 3 separate nodes. I've created a node for each server. So here, this will run, it will go into this configuration data, and it will search all nodes, and it will look for a role called DC1. If it's DC1, then it will run this configuration. So let me show you the config data. I mean, this is our common data, which I'll come back to. So here's the DC1 configuration data. Here I've got all my variables in here. I mean, it's just a neater way of keeping all my variables here rather than having them all in the resource. And it's also a way of sharing configuration in a common variable. Here I've got a node name, DC1. I've got a unique IP address, and I've got a role. The role for this is called DC1. Again, I could just call it domain controller or whatever. So it looks at that role. Here, within the other server, app1, the role's called app1, and then that could be called server2 or whatever you want. And it's got its own unique IP address. It doesn't have much to configure on app1 apart from joining the domain and apart from installing web services. But on DC1, there's a lot to do. It's got credentials. It's got you've got to configure a DHCP scope, start range, end range. We've got a lot. We're also creating an AD group and the like. So let's quickly go through the configurations. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to install Active Directory domain services, just like we did before, and it's also going to install the management tools. What I want it to do is, after it installs ADDS, and you configure ADDS, the server reboots, but it doesn't log in. I want it to automatically log in. You won't do this in production, but it's my test lab. So I've created a registry key called domain autoadmin login, and what it's doing basically is it's modifying that registry key to the domain name. So instead of logging on as the local server, as it does automatically, it'll just log on into the domain using the same password. Here it's configuring ADDS, then it will wait for the domain to be configured, and it'll probably reboot at this point. There's an idiosyncrasy within ADDS where you get an annoying prompt in Server Manager. This registry key I'm creating with this resource gets rid of that. We've also got a resource here which creates a user, XAD user. This creates an AD user called first user. Here we've got a couple custom DSC resources. Now, when it says X, these are new resources that actually come with, you can actually download from the DSC resource kit. Well, let me just quickly show you that, okay? Guys, are you still on this call, or have I cut you off again? You still there?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. DSC resource kit. Now, as you saw here, on that first server, there are just about, and on my workstation here, you've got about 10 resources, haven't you? 10 DSC resources. Well, let's jump into my DC now. We'll quickly connect to that. Now, this server here has a hell of a lot more DSC resources.
So you have loaded them into this particular server, or?
Yes, that's right. And I'll show you how I've done that. Basically, you've got the DSC resource kit, and we're currently on wave 8 of it. Every month, it's in the last, well, every month or 6 weeks or 2 months so far, since exactly this time last year, Microsoft have released wave after wave of new DSC resources.
I guess this is something like the PowerShell commands that will import, right?
That's right. Yeah, you'll import them in your server. So we've got one. I mean, let's look at this one here, for example. X means experimental. So the experimental resources, you can use them for configuring and learning DSC for now. I mean, this isn't going to be part of the MCSE exam. This is taking us a bit beyond it. Well, this is how we're going to be using it moving forward. So if we look on this resource here, the Active Directory resource, there's examples here on how to use it. Domain name, parent domain name, safe mode, administrator password, DNS delegation, and there's a whole example resource here on how you could create a highly available domain using multiple domain controllers. So here, you've got two nodes. You've got your primary DC node there, and then you've got your replica DC. So here's a configuration here. You would apply this on one server, and it would create your domain, AD domain, wait for domain, and then AD user. And then here, on your second server, you'd apply this. It would basically install the AD feature, wait for your domain, and add the AD controller to the existing AD domain, basically. There's configuration data here stored in a variable here. Things like, your domain name, things like the replica server name, also certification details and stuff if you want it to be more secure. I'm not currently using those in my test lab. And here basically is where it applies the configuration. Now I'll show you how. Is everybody clear on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now what you do is you download this. Yeah. It's a zip file. You just simply download it, and in there's a bunch of folders. You take those folders to see program files. So let me make this full screen again.
That's fine, it's visible for us. No problem, you can go ahead.
And you drop it in the modules folder. So here you go. These are all the resources that they've given you. So this one here, Active Directory. Within there's the resources. And as you can see, there's a number of 5 different, DSC resources all built in here. What I'm going to do is I keep forgetting to do this. There we go again. Keep the changes. We're going to crack open a resource, and I'm going to show you exactly what the resource actually does. Is everybody with me so far?
Yes.
If anybody's messaging me there, I can't actually see my screen, so.
Oh, so it automatically downloads from the Microsoft site, right?
Nope, it doesn't. You download it as a zip file.
Okay.
And then from then on, you open up the zip file. Yeah? You open the zip file and you copy its contents into this folder here, modules.
Okay.
So within the zip file, you have all of these folders here.
Right.
Yeah. As you can see, they've created resources for configuring SCOM, System Center, installing System Center Virtual Machine Manager. I think there's one coming up soon for installing SCCM, which will be great. You can actually use it to configure Hyper-V, configure advanced networking. The actual possibilities are limitless. You can actually use it for installing and configuring Google Chrome even. I can't believe they've created one for Chrome, BitLocker, and also for Windows Azure. Well, let's crack open the Active Directory one, the Active Directory AD domain resource. And I'll show you exactly just what it's doing under the hood, because it's not that difficult. I mean, so far, it actually looks like magic, doesn't it? But it isn't. It isn't. It's just a lot of, clever things chained together in series. This is basically what Microsoft wanted PowerShell to be. This is their end game. I mean, this declarative resource, this is how we do things on Linux at the moment. You know, they've done it on Linux for a while. There's products called Chef and Puppet, which they're using DevOps. They've been using that for a while. So this is Microsoft's method of catching up with it. So here, with DSC is as simple as this. You get the configuration.
Mm-hmm.
Your configuration is one of two things. It is compliant or it's not compliant. It's true or false. It's Boolean. If it's not compliant, then it will set the configuration. And it's as simple as that. Forget test for now. Apologies. Forget get. You test the configuration and then you set the configuration. So simply you test it. If it's compliant, good. If it's not, it will set it for you. So let's have a look at the set, see what it does. Within here, as you can see, you've got a parameter block here: domain name, parent domain name, domain administrator credentials. And if you look at this resource here, XAD domain. Let's look at that now. Domain name, domain administration credentials, safe mode credentials, depends on. This is it. You know, these parameters, what you put in here, you know, the data you enter here gets passed to this function here. This function called setResource. And what it will do, in this case, is it will get your AD domain, throw an error, and here you go. This is what you're doing. This is all it is doing. It's using install ADDS for us, and it is using the parameters that you pass to it. It is as simple as that. Everything else here is just error checking. Let's see if there's another resource which we can actually use as another example. Something probably not as complex as ADDS. X computer management. Yeah. This one here is it renames your computer and joins it to a domain. So you've got your get, you've got your set, and you've got your test. Now your get, all your get does is it returns a hash table. So most people say this actually does nothing. They say that could actually do anything as far as DSC is concerned, because you know that information isn't actually used. It may be used moving forward, but for now, I don't see how it's used. So you test your configuration, in this case, to find out, you know, whether your computer name is what it's supposed to be, whether you join to the domain, you know. If you're not, I'll show you what it does. If domain name, rename computer, write verbose, rename computer, join the computer to domain if it's not a domain number, using the add computer commandlet. It will use the domain name, the credentials that you've passed, and the new name. I mean, is everybody with me so far? I mean, is that difficult to follow, or is that pretty much easy to understand? Have I lost you?
I'm sorry, I just came back.
That's okay. Okay, so essentially, that's your configuration resource. It's as simple as that. And I'm going to stop saying that now. Right. Okay,
But
so
I just have a question,
sure.
Andrew. Like
Mhm.
these are the when these are the files that you have written or like you have downloaded.
These resources. Oh, this test lab base configuration.
Right.
Ah, I see. Oh, this is a configuration resource which I've created myself.
It's
Yeah.
great.
So
Really great.
so what so what I've done basically, yeah,
Hmm?
is I've downloaded the Microsoft
Resource.
DSC resource kit,
Mm-hmm.
and I've applied it here, and I've used their resources here to configure the server. And then what I've done, bear with me, is I've created this resource called the test lab base configuration. Now within here, this is all my work basically. I've gone through and I've used this I've used the actual this guide as a framework, a punching bag for me to test DSC and make sure it goes through its paces and make sure it does what it's supposed to do. The only thing, I came across a few things like, I needed to create registry keys, so I learned how to use that resource. One thing I found was that when I needed to create a group in Active Directory, I needed to create a group called DHCP administrators and another one called DHCP users. Literally, I was unable to do that because Microsoft hadn't released a resource for creating AD groups. We've created a resource for creating AD users, but not for groups. So what I did basically was I created my own resource called Scriptimus Ex Machina, and underneath there, when you create your own resource, you're supposed to give it your prefix, SE resource, and then whatever you're calling it. Here I'm calling it AD group. So here's my resource. And this resource basically is a bit of a copy of their resource, AD user. And I'm using it basically to essentially, well,
Do you have some development experience prior to this particular thing?
No, I'm just a techie. I'm a admin. Started off as a desktop admin, and I moved over to being a server admin, and now I work at as a consultant level, as an IT contractor. Here we've got get AD group, remove AD group. What have we got? New AD group. This is all it is. New AD group, and then the parameters that are passed, and that's all it's doing. Everything else around it is error checking and the like. Again, you can look at these resources which Microsoft have made and use them as a baseline to create your own resources. There is actually a DSC resource which can actually be used to create these resources. But again, we could be here all night talking about this. That's going a bit off scope. So here, it fell short, so I've used my own resource there. Now, when this server started, just now, because you've seen I've just built this server. This is DC1. We weren't able to see the configuration, but I've actually stored it in a text file here. I've stored it in a log file here, a Microsoft transcript file. So literally, when the server started, which was about about 25 minutes ago, whatever, 12:21, it created the resource which has two resources in it. Created two more files, DSC and app1. Within then, it started the DSC resource. configured the network adapter, configured the IP address. Again, this was a brand new IP, a brand new machine, you know, straight out the box. Let's have a look.
So Microsoft uses the same technology for getting the virtual machines deployed within seconds?
That's right. There you go. This is going to be the way forward. I mean, I have a blog which I used to blog heavily on Microsoft Deployment Toolkit and System Center Configuration Manager. And the task sequence, which we're currently using now, is going to be a thing of the past. Because now, with this PowerShell DSC, this makes task sequences obsolete. Yeah, I mean, so far, looking at this resource, look at this. I've configured the IP address for it. What else have I done? I've installed Active Directory Domain Services. Let's fire this up now. Let's have a look here. Hostname, IP address, Active Directory Domain Services role, DHCP role. Within DHCP, let's look at DHCP. I've also created a resource for authorizing the DHCP server because there wasn't a resource of that. As you can see, I've created a scope here using DSC. I've created scope options. The domain name has been registered there. Let's go now to direct users and computers. DHCP administrators, that's been created. DHCP users, that group has been created. Scriptimus, that user account's been created. What I'm going to do now.
Yeah, Andrew.
It's a fine. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Hello, yeah. So I must say that this is like a really powerful tool. In terms of, yeah, it is like in terms of what it does. But what you mentioned like just now about this having the potential to make SSM task sequences obsolete. So what's the power? Because I can see the power behind it in terms of deploying servers, but does it have like the same amount of power when it comes to deploying clients where you have lots of third-party applications and all that kind of stuff involved?
Well, you've got what's called, in terms of applications now, I mean, we're going a bit off scope here, but there's something called PowerShell GET and OneGet. I don't know if you've seen OneGet at the moment, but you've got the ability to use just a PowerShell command just to say, get this application, and it will go to the internet, get the application, download it, and install it in the same way that you would click on the Windows Store and install an application. You'd be able to get any application installed to your machine and fully configured just by the click of, the run of a PowerShell command. If you change that within DSC, then essentially, yes, I think, definitely, what have I done on that? I see. I'm just wondering why my virtual machine didn't mount, didn't delete. Sorry, didn't run. Sorry. Well, I actually had the drive. I didn't mount it, didn't I? So yeah, bear with me. Let me just quickly find. Let me see if I can start this. Oh, it is starting. I thought I was going to have to delete it and create the whole thing again. This will be the final part of the demo. The second server, app 1, is just going to start now. It's going to name itself. It's going to run its configuration resource. It's going to join the domain, and it's going to create a folder in the root of C with a file in it. It's also going to install web server on it, web server role. So we're going to watch this final bit in real time, and then that will simply conclude the demo, basically. As you can see, this server is booting for the first time out of the box. And this is the first one experience. If you saw that little box that popped up there, that was the synchronous run command, which just executed, and that created a scheduled task. That scheduled task is going to execute as soon as we log in. Any more questions while we're watching this in the background?
Everything looks great for me. I think David is speaking, but I'm not able to hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can hear you now, David.
Yeah. So I do think that it's a really powerful tool. I mean, I've been impressed with like the power of what it can do and what can be accomplished through it, and that. Yeah. So I think it's like something that's really really good. So definitely something that I'll say it's worth looking out for in terms of the way system administration goes in a couple of months and years.
Definitely. I mean, I'm not going to try and sell it. I'm not going to try and sell it to you. But I mean, as you can see here, we've got a DHCP IP address, 172.0.0.20, and it's picked up DHCP data. We don't have any roles or anything configured at the moment. Going to look in the root of the C drive. I'm going to look in the scripts folder. The script folder is where I've told it to run this DSC resource from. And there you go. It's just started now. It should have set the IP address now. Yep, it set the IP address. It's created a mob file, set the IP address, and it's created a web server role. If I look at the IP address now, as you can see, it set the IP address to 172.0.0.3. If we go back here now, if I were to refresh this, oh look, it's about to sign me out, and it's about to reboot me, because it's just joined the computer to the domain. And there you go, it's going to reboot, join the domain, and automatically log in. It'll be domain number now. And that's it. I think we can end there. Actually, that concludes the demo.
I think
any other questions on DSC?
It's really.
And there's my lab built, by the way.
Yeah, it's really good. Definitely something to pay more attention to study more. But it's really good.
I guess this is like if you are into this cloud platform, we are looking something in the cloud platform. I think this is one such wonderful tool that you have to learn and be expert in, right?
Oh, indeed, definitely. But again, you don't need to be an expert in DSC. You don't need to be an expert in PowerShell to do this. I mean, there's guys like me who can actually build the resources. There's other people who can do that. Microsoft will build resources for you. But to configure DSC, all you're doing is you're configuring a text file.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
Literally,
Correct.
Look at this. Ensure present AD domain services. You can do that. Who can't do that? The IP address. Pretty much you know what an IP address is. You know how to configure it. There you go. IP address, alias, default gateway, subnet mask. Now, fair enough, I've actually stuck the data over here. But yeah, the IP address. Your subnet mask is there. Your default gateway, if necessary, DNS server.
Right.
you know, DNS name. It's pretty straightforward. It's, you know, and once someone and Microsoft, as you've seen with the DSC resource kit, they supply examples here for Active Directory. There's an example here. You simply get this example here. You see here, there's an example here they've got for building, you know, a replica domain controller. You think, oh, I don't need a replica domain controller. Well, delete this. Don't use this section. Yeah? You look in there, and you see, what have we got? A primary DC, AD domain services, domain cred, domain name, node.domain name, and right down there, domain name. Where's the domain name? DSC test.tussle.com. Oh, my domain isn't called tussle.com. My, domain's called jk.com. Well, just rename that to jk.com. Done. It's as simple as that, It is that simple.
Yeah, it's really nice. Thanks very much for this, Andrew. So, wow, I'll take this recording, I'll edit it, and I'll post it to the community, so you can put any more information that can help in terms of getting more familiar with it.
Yep, and what I'll do is I'll put together a DSC resource sheet, and then we can actually share that on the website as well.
Yeah.
Andrew, would that be possible for you to share the Word file? I mean, the WordPad that you've opened?
Which one was that? The actual was that the test lab base configuration? Was that?
I guess so.
Yeah, I'll share that. Yeah, I'll share that in what I'll do is I'll create a resource document, and then I'll share that in the forum basically. I'll share that afterwards. Yeah.
That's
and then we can get it posted up on the website as well.
Yep, that's great, Andrew.
Yeah. Thanks very much for that, Andrew. Much appreciated. It's really good.
No problem. Thank you.
Really good. Yeah.
It's really great.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful
Thanks,
night. Yeah. See you later, guys.
Hey, bye bye.
Yeah. Bye for now.